terms of implementing climate resilience projects, I do not have a problem with people making mistakes, because if you make mistakes, then that's how you learn. I think what is needed right now is in terms of people just doing more. I'm Sunandan Tiwari. I'm the Deputy Director at ICLEI South Asia. I'm based out of New Delhi. So I grew up in a small town called Pondicherry. It's a French colony actually. It's about 100 miles south of Chennai, which used to be called Madras. We had a teacher, he's a Frenchman, who used to be a war reporter, and he had covered Vietnam and all of those wars. And he had, a totally different vision of education. So what he called like free progress. We were, for example, taken to work in a dairy farm. So you actually cleaned the cows, did the milking, you went and worked in the poultry, you went and did all kinds of things that a normal student would not do as part of their education. So I think a lot of that upbringing made me realize where my heart actually, where it actually lay. I'm not really a city person, though I work on cities, having grown up in a small town. But being in a city, and given my current work, which looks at working with city governments, being in a city, you actually experience firsthand a lot of the issues, and therefore you can internalize a lot of the challenges that you're actually trying to tackle. Some people who just pass out of university come and ask me, what do you think I should do? I said, you should go and work in the field and understand. When you talk about issues of poverty, we've actually been privileged not to have to face that, but to really understand that it's not just a word. To really understand what poverty means, to understand what deprivation actually is, where you actually see firsthand and experience sometimes the challenges of the issues that you're trying to address. Well, a city like Delhi faces a lot of challenges. But not only for Delhi, I think for most cities, when you're talking from an urban climate resilience perspective at this point of time, the biggest challenge is to change your mindset. So how do you get people to start thinking a little differently, start thinking about climate change, that it is not something that affects somebody else, it is something that affects me, it affects my family, it affects my community. I think the ASN.net and the whole ASN program has made a huge difference. I think it's brought about this thing of looking at urban climate resilience on the table. So people are talking a lot more about urban climate resilience now, as compared to when probably they started, and it was more academic. But it's just now that it has become part of the vocabulary. When people talk about it, they don't go like, what does that mean for local governments, for subnational governments, or national governments? They're all kind of playing with these words now, and it's only when you start playing with the words and the concepts, and you try and internalize them and contextualize them, is when a certain amount of it kind of seeps into your policy and practice. For policymakers in urban areas to ensure that climate resilience is poor, the first thing that they would need to do is to make the processes that they have in terms of designing the programs and the schemes and so on, even the policies, to be more inclusive. It has, to be fair, it has become a lot more participatory now, but what is in question is the kind of participation that you are actually now getting. Are we actually, in terms of designing a program, does it include the people who are supposed to benefit from it, rather than somebody sitting at a desk and saying like, oh no, this is what is best for you right now. So if I had $1 million to spend on climate resilience projects, at this point of time, a lot of the focus I would have on capacity building, and just for people, for building awareness. Because like I said, for me, it's not so much about the project, it's more about the process. And the way I have seen it is that the first part of the process is actually making people aware in terms of that climate resilience starts from the individual and goes up to the national government, and each one has a stake and a certain responsibility that they have to undertake. Me, as an individual, I have certain responsibilities to help build climate resilience in the city or wherever I may live.